Hello once again and welcome to Herd Immunity News. I am Marcus Botzer. Today we're going to speak about the announcements made by Levelling Up Minister for the Conservatives, Michael Gove. This was in relation to what is now and who is now going to be viewed as an extremist. So today Mr. Gove stood up in the House of Commons and he said following in relation to extremism. He said that the new diktats are as follows. Under the new definition, which comes into force on Thursday, we believe that's a week today, so that will be the 21st of March, the definitions of extremism or the promotion or advancement of an ideology based on violence, hatred, or intolerance aims to negate or destroy the fundamental rights and freedoms of others, undermine, overturn, or replace the UK's system of liberal parliamentary democracy and democratic rights, or intentionally create a permissive environment for others to achieve the results in 1 and 2. So these interpretations are vacuous and vague, to say the least. Two organisations that were named by Mr. Gove today included a group called Patriotic Alternative, and the other one, who are viewed as extremists from the Muslim Islamic side, were a group called Cage. So, as Mr. Gove is highlighting, the Patriotic Alternative are, in his view, extremists and far right. They have both responded, both these groups, Cage and Patriotic Alternative, have responded today saying that first of all, Patriotic Alternative have said that your claims that Patriotic Alternative seeks forced repatriation of ethnic minority groups, this is completely and demonstrably false. We have a policy of voluntary repatriation for settled migrants, and only the people we seek to forcibly deport are illegal migrants and foreign criminals, something that the Conservative Party have repeatedly pledged to do, but failed to make good on. We also oppose mass immigration, a view that is held by a large section of the voting population and something that the Conservative Party have again repeatedly pledged to get under control, whilst in reality increasing net migration to new highs. From the other side, the Muslim supporting group, which Mr. Gove has announced is extreme, they've also hit back and said that they're going to look into legal ramifications. An article was published in the National magazine, which covered the joint statement, which has been put out by Sisters Uncut, Black Lives Matter, Cage, who say they are collectively exploring all avenues, including legal, to challenge the government's deep dive into authoritarianism. They accuse the government of seeking to strengthen the state's coercive powers without any pretense or due process or judicial oversight, and of course create a new category of licensed dissenters or protesters and activists deemed deeply acceptable by ministers. They added that the government will be held to account for aiding and abetting the genocide in Gaza and weaponizing extremism to shield itself. They are all banding together and fighting both on the far left or the Muslim side, the Islamic side, and on the so-called or defined extreme right groups like the ones that we just mentioned, that Patriotic Alternative. We have no links or have never contacted anyone from either of these groups. But what is very concerning is the escalation towards a reduction and the redaction of freedoms of speech, leaving it in the hands of people like Michael Gove, Rishi Sunak, Keir Starmer, who can actually speak and what they can say, what is deemed reasonable, is alarming, to say the least. I mean, we've made this point several times about Rishi Sunak. The man isn't even elected as the Conservative leader. So to talk about democracy is a complete shambles and sham from Gove, as Conservative members of the party were excluded from voting at all. Now, when we look under the microscope a little more clearly at to negate or destroy the fundamental rights and freedoms of others, again, that can be seen as protest against a value, protest against a belief. Let's look at something, for example, like the LGBTQ+. Now, they have different fundamentals of what they believe their rights are, whereas Muslims and Christians believe, for example, that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. Biologically, that can never change. However, it's completely the opposite version to those pushing the LGBT plus Q agenda. And that is coming from both within the Labour Party, the SNP, and to a certain extent, the Conservatives, looking to undermine and replace the UK's system of liberal parliamentary democracy and democratic rights. Again, that is very vague. You could be asking to exclude the UK from the European Court of Human Rights. Would that be the promotion of national sovereignty or parliamentary sovereignty? Yes, of course it would. But then there's another school of thought saying that we are linked legally and bindingly to the European Court of Human Rights, and that will always be the case and always be the way. So which way will that fall? Will it be to those calling for us to leave the ECHR, or will it fall into those who say that under national sovereignty or parliamentary sovereignty, we have the right to extradite ourselves from these foreign national courts? Again, very much up to one's own interpretation. Intentionally create a permissive environment for others to achieve the results of 1 and 2. Again, it's extremely vague. What comments are seen to be judged correctly? Someone like Tobias Elwood, this World Economic Forum warmonger, we always have in our crosshairs, obviously metaphorically speaking, on a daily basis. He was on GB News tonight with Nigel Farage, and he was talking about the right kind of freedom of speech. Again, this is incredibly worrying indeed. Now, we also made the point about the support of neo-Nazism, that all, according to Michael Gove, these people will be seen as extremists, as they should. And we remind everybody of the Canadian Parliament last year when Justin Trudeau and Christian Freeland, then accompanied by Mr. Zelensky, gave a standing ovation to a 98-year-old SS Waffen officer, Mr. Uncut, I think his name was. And will they be forgiven for this? That seems to be the way. You just have to apologise. Earlier on today, Rishi Sunak was being questioned in relation to one of his donors who had left £10 million in the kitty for them. This is the controversy over Diane Abbott, of course. And he basically said, as long as he apologises, I don't see the problem. Well, there's a lot of riding on that one. £10 million riding on that one. There'll be jobs riding on that as well. And he said, well, look, he wasn't going to commit himself to anything as normal. And he said, this will be down to a committee to look at and investigate, of course. And Frank Hester is this chap's name. He's the largest investor in the Conservative Party. You can bet your bottom dollar that this money will not be going back. Absolutely not. No way, no chance. He has shown some regret and remorse, according to Sunak, and this is enough. So if it's enough for the Tory donor, Mr. Hester, Frank Hester, why is it not good enough for these other groups? Now, we are not supporting Patriotic Alternative, and we're certainly not supporting Cage and the other Muslim groups, the Sisters Uncut, Black Lives Matter, this lot. We're not supporting them, but what we do support is the right for free speech and expression. We have laws, anti-terrorist laws in place at the moment that can be used. And many of us do fear that speaking out, for example, as the Patriotic Alternative were talking about immigration, they were talking about deportations. Deportations should be happening right now for illegal migrant criminals. We'll try for a bit of balance on the other side, Cage, are looking to promote the awareness of the genocide that's going on in Gaza. They're openly calling out the Israelis. They're pointing to the International Court of Justice. They want Benjamin Netanyahu to be arrested and taken to The Hague. They should be able to do these things as long as they're not breaking any laws or supporting any personal injury or death. These laws are in place right now. What many of us fear is that this is the tiptoeing towards a complete totalitarian rule and regime, which we are seeing an increasing likelihood of in the United Kingdom. So whether you be viewed as extreme right or extreme left, there are laws in place right now to deal with you and to ensure that you conduct yourself in a legal and proper manner. Moving to the courts, there is a complete backlog at the moment in unpaid fines, unpaid charges. We've seen this through the ULEZ expansion, where in Birmingham, for example, BCC, 57,000 people who refused to pay the climate scam fines were thrown out of court. Their fines were thrown out of court. And obviously, as we've also let people know on this channel, for you, those of you that don't know already, for fines to be enacted, they have to go all the way through the courts, and you can challenge them through the courts. We have information from our legal people on previous channels on this very matter. So we are very concerned at Herd Immunity News that the freedom of speech and expression is being curtailed even further by the likes of Michael Gove, Rishi Sunak, Keir Starmer, Angela Rayner, and all these people. They seem to be having a little tennis match between each other in the House of Commons, where they've mentioned, Sunak has mentioned Angela Rayner's comments about calling Tory scum. Now, does she mean that every single person who votes Conservative is scum? She probably doesn't. She did say it. She's talking about the cabinet. She's definitely talking about Sunak, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, Grant Shapps, Michael Gove. We don't have much struck for these people at all. Will we call them scum? Probably not. I don't know, but we'll call them out for every single crime they've committed against the people of this country. When we look at Keir Starmer taking the knee to groups like Black Lives Matter, we're disgusted by that. A lot of his policies and politics we don't agree with. He's, again, another one who believes in Davos and the World Economic Forum and thinks that Davos is a more important venue for British politics than Westminster itself. So he's another World Economic Forum puppet in waiting. He's another open borders man, something that we are strongly against. So this is where we're going right now, and it is quite worrying. We've publicly said that the election of George Galloway was very interesting for the British political system. Other smaller fringe parties from the left and right can take heart from this. Did Mr. Galloway engage with the issue, the war that's going on in Gaza, the killing that's going on right there, right now? Yes, of course he did. That's politics. Of course he's going to use his advantages to get in, just as parties like Reform are trying to get in on open borders, mass immigration, rising crime, as well as a lot of other policies which are coming from the Conservative government. The Workers' Party are now starting to expand on their policies, their agendas. Their manifesto is being put together by George Galloway. So just a little clip and video from us tonight to highlight our concerns over these new policies and new diktats that are coming to both these groups that we mentioned tonight, Patriotic Alternative and Cage. There are laws in place right now with the Public Order Act. There are anti-terrorist laws in place, anti-terrorism regulations in place to spot these things before they go and get carried away. The protests that are going on right now are continuing on. They will continue on and should perhaps continue on when we're looking at ending war. As a channel here at Herd Immunity News, we're against war. We're against the conflicts that are currently going out. But we're not against a just war. Again, that is one of those things that we'll have to debate, depending on the conflict and depending on who has been attacked. So for now, we will leave you with our thoughts on the matter and get back to you very soon with another Herd Immunity News information piece. Take care. Till next time. Bye bye.